get into this renter bill of rights nonsense that Trudeau put out today. So I thought this was kind of interesting. We'll let Trudeau speak for himself, hear from him. Something that is new program they're introducing here in Canada. Trudeau got in front of the press to let us know what it's all about.
Renters matter. And young Canadians put a lot of their hard-earned money towards rent. We think that should count for a lot more. So today we're announcing new protections for renters and new pathways to home ownership. As part of our upcoming budget, we're going to create a Canadian Renters Bill of Rights. It would create a nationwide standard for lease agreements, give renters a clear history of apartment pricing so they can bargain fairly, and make sure they have more agency. We're also going to launch a new legal aid fund that will protect tenants against unfairly rising rents, rent evictions, and bad landlords. And finally, we're going to help you make your rent count towards you becoming a homeowner.
Oh, let's go.
We'll do that by making sure that the fact that you pay your rent every month, which, remember, is a pretty significant amount of money.
Oh, we know.
That payment and that demonstrated reliability that you've shown over months and years is taken into account when you apply for a mortgage.
Beautiful. Lays it out, new renter bill of rights. And this seems to be more of a distraction because he knows things are going terribly. But that seems to be the solution for this party in general. Things are going badly. Well, let's introduce another government program with more administration and more government costs. But that's where we're at.
Well, you have to do that in order to keep up the workforce because the private sector is losing all the jobs. So you got to find jobs somewhere. So we'll just put them in the public sector, like administering this.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great idea. And again, it's just another Band-Aid solution. And in some ways, I did appreciate at least he tried to at least feign that people could purchase homes still these days. But the fact that this is coming out as he sees this as a need, which we know is mainly a ploy, it's discouraging. It sucks. What is going on? I thought what I'm curious of, what I really want to know is because he's been really on top of this and really, I know Sean Fraser's really been advocating for it. The idea that housing's a provincial responsibility. What the heck is this thing going to do? I'd like to hear more.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say this is another nothing sandwich because basically we saw this before. You all remember the first-time homebuyers Bill of Rights that they had put out there, the homebuyers Bill of Rights. And that went absolutely nowhere because he was like, we're going to put this out there. We're going to create this. And they did. But because this is not in our jurisdiction, we're going to encourage the provinces to do that. There's not going to be any blind bidding. You're going to know exactly. And we're going to, I forget all the different pieces. There was actually a lot of pieces in that. If you actually enacted it, it'd probably be really good. Yeah. Ending blind bidding, that's wonderful. The problem is that he went to the provinces and said, please enact this. The provinces said, screw you. This is not your jurisdiction, butt out of it. And it went nowhere. And so that's exactly what's going to happen with this too, is that he's going to spend a bunch of money, a bunch of taxpayer money on putting this together. And it's going to go to the provinces and the provinces are going to go, thanks, but no thanks. See ya. And that's all it's going to be.
How you doing? Keep it moving.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And that's what is frustrating in terms of, I was talking over the dinner table over this issue in general. I think regardless of what you think of this era of Liberal Party ruling the country, this Trudeau era, I think the very least, what the good thing that this man has done is he's made Canadians a lot more aware of politics and how politics work in our country, which I think is really is a positive because more people are talking about than I've ever seen before because more people are frustrated. They're being more impacted by government decisions. But this is another one of those, people can see through it at this point. We know this is going nowhere. We know you're just trying to look good. You're trying to distract because your record's terrible. The whole country hates you, except for the people in maybe the big cities like Toronto or Vancouver. But you lost the popular vote in the last two elections, which I think is an interesting metric to go by. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything for an election, but I think it's an interesting metric to look to. I'm curious in an election that he actually loses, what that popular vote would actually look like. So
yeah, and like even if we look at the pieces of the Renters Bill of Rights, like let's say in a perfect world, Trudeau walks in with this Renters Bill of Rights, brings it to the provinces, and provinces accept it with open arms. Okay, so there's some glaring issues here, because at first I was like, oh, that sounds great. Protections for renters. Cool. We would love to see people be able to afford houses. Great. And their big thing that they were talking about was the credit history piece. They're like, okay, you should be able to use that credit history. It's dumb that you don't. The problem is that your credit history is maintained by private corporations with a secret sauce that nobody's allowed to know. So this is where I'm just like, how are they going to use that credit history? What happens if because I've had moments where I forgot to pay my rent on time. I pay it the next day. We're all good because I had a really good landlord, and he was like, you're a really good tenant. You've never missed a day, chalk it up to this being a holiday weekend kind of thing. And it's been great. And my landlord actually, who I used to have my apartment with before I bought my house, really, really awesome guy, kept the rent low, didn't ever raise it on us until the very last moment, the year that we left. And so I'm worried that what happens when you get some landlords who then start raising the rent through the roof and actually ends up destroying somebody's credit history because they're like, this is untenable. We can't afford this ridiculous rent. If rents were actually at a normal, reasonable level, that would make sense. So I'm looking at it and this looks like a way to kind of entrap people, and then also use credit history in a way that's just going to keep them renting forever. That's actually going to do the opposite. That's not going to help them because we don't have the formula for your credit history. And it seems so counterintuitive, even when you're looking at your finances, because I know this, that when I actually add debt to my portfolio, my credit score goes up. And then when I pay down debt, my credit score goes down. So it's really, really frustrating to look at this and say, you're now moving something that's going to be even more impactful on people and putting it in the hands of somebody that we don't know, the Equifax of the world, who will not share their formula for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was also one piece of that bill that I thought was interesting too, is the idea of forcing some type of registry to see the history of rent at any given property. Again, as you said, nice idea, but if a perfect world that worked, it still doesn't fix the affordability issue.
No.
It's okay, great. Yeah. Wow. Last month I'm renting this house for $2,400 a month. Month before that, it was going for $1,900. Reality is there's still not enough places for people to live in. So who cares what it cost 2 months ago? I have to pay that because I have nowhere else to live if I can't. It's a simple economics issue. And again, it just shows how flowery of we're doing this for the people. We care about people. Meanwhile, all of your policies have made things wicked unaffordable. People are impoverished. People are hurting. People can barely get by at this point. But here, I'm going to get out in front of cameras again and say, I do care for you. Trust me. I got you.
Yeah. And the other part of it too is even just the idea that even if you had a spotless credit history, you were able to afford the payments, and you could see the previous payments for the entire history of that rental unit. That doesn't mean anything because you've got 50 other people all trying to get to that same apartment. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be able to barter with a landlord when there's such a disparity between amount of people needing an apartment and apartments available? This is not building apartments for anyone. This is not building houses for anyone. We're still letting in millions of people by the year into this country and them having nowhere to go. So this is absolutely asinine to think that this is going to help in any way with getting people into homes. It's not building homes. In fact, I was listening to a stat in Ontario that they're building homes right now at the same rate as 1991 with 14 million more people now. What are we thinking? And then I was looking at Sean Fraser's, new housing plans that they had put out. They said, well, this is a wartime measure. We're going to do this and it's going to make it so much easier. And it's going to clear the pathway. Nobody's building single family homes. They put all the incentives onto rentals. And then they're going, well, we're doing everything we can. No, you're not. Mm-hmm. You want to make, home ownership more affordable for people, make rent and make mortgages claimable on your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy way to do it. You can do it in the States with your mortgages, at least. I don't know about rent, but mortgages are deductible from your income tax. Do that here.
That was electric, wasn't it? Well, we enjoyed it. Hope you did too. If you did, you can check this video out here to the top right corner right near my window. Get over. There it is. There it is right there. And if you liked that, you can also check this one right here. We love you. Have a good one. Peace out.